Hello and welcome to this video. My name is the Zoda. Over the next 20 minutes or so I'll be covering various points of the new ArmA 3 expansion terrain, Tanoa. These will include critical analysis of screenshots and possible features, community wishes, possible real-life terrain counterparts, and various other topics of my own opinions and thoughts. I've spent the last few hours looking at various leakages online and other forum topics, and I've bring to you these conclusions. I hope you enjoy thoroughly. Here is the ArmA 3 countdown page for the new Tanoa terrain. So, it's been leaked with several photos earlier today, and I'd just like to share some of that with you. So, on the countdown we've got the PC gaming show where ArmA 3 and the devs from Bohemia will actually be showing off the terrain in video and footage. Now, it was leaked earlier today in several documents like this, one by PC Invasion, which I'll be referencing, and it really shows off, but it says it's leaked and slipped out. However, I do not personally believe this after reading many forums posts, which has changed my view on things. I believe that Valve has released it earlier with just these photos and a small description to get us really updated and hyped for the E3. Now, going off this original post here, I'd just like to highlight several things. I'm just going to open this link in the meantime. Right, so in the first thing here, in the background here, you see just here in the P where my cursor is, there is 5 small stars. Now, anyone from Australia will mostly recognise these as the Southern Cross. You may need to open the website yourself to be able to view these, but it is very clear to me that this is the Southern Cross. I haven't yet seen the pointer stars, however I believe they are there. This means the map itself is in the southern hemisphere, so in the south half of the world. I'd also like to highlight your attention to the back here. We've got some vegetation over here, what looks like a volcano, and some vegetation over here. There's also some water effects down here, which may be hard to see on the screen. I looked earlier on my laptop and I couldn't see it, but now I've reviewed it on my desktop, I can see it clearly. Anyway, so I'd like to bring you to this post here, by the French community. New Biscrane decrypting known information. So without going into the spoilers, these guys have got a pretty good idea of what they're looking at. Firstly, they've noticed Chinese soldiers. This might be considered racist, but they are clearly Asian. We can see from their camo it's a bit different, but urban CSAT. They've also got the black helicopter. Now, while this is available in ArmA 3, it's not actually placeable in the editor without some sort of scripting, which I've done personally before. So we can tell from here that they've been hinting from a while back maybe. The second thing that they've brought up is this. Someone's gone along and pointed out some of the depictions along here. They point out high density vegetation, which makes sense, and the volcano, and the coastline, which immediately brings us to the Pacific. Immediately it grabs our attention to think, hang on a minute. Anything with a volcano, a lot of that kind of stuff, and the coastline is generally something we'd think out of as tropical islands. Naturally, this brings us to the Pacific. Now, without going into all of this, let's just take another look at their post. In the comments, we've got some photos from various Pacific islands and good comments, great information. Finally, I come down to this comment by Quentin LeBastard. If you look here, he's given the picture a lot more white and black, and upped the ante on it and shown us really what it looks like without all the writing over it. Immediately we're highlighted back to this island, confirming that it is in fact this what we're seeing over here. Now, I'd like to focus your attention a bit on the water reflections to start with, but we can see some lights along here. I will come back to that later. Now, I'm surprised we don't see any over here, which I'll also comment on, but we can see there's some form of civilization up on this tip here. I'd like you to remember that. Now, moving along, we come to this. This is the leaked terrain post. I'd like to read it out to you before going through the screenshots in detail. It's not easy to keep things under wrap, and it looks like Bohemia Interactive's new ArmA 3 terrain has slipped out before the Tanoa moment. This was probably accidentally published. Whoops. I'd just like to comment here and say, maybe it was not accidentally published but done for hype. Called the Tanoa terrain, it shows Pacific Islands type landscapes and an ideal place for a holiday. The leak comes with the following info. Situated in the South Pacific, the island province of Tanoa is one of that together compose the Horizon Islands, an independent nation with the historic ties to both the East and the West. Formerly an outpost belonging to the Empire of Japan before its liberation by US Marines in 1944 during the Pacific Campaign in World War II, evidence of a long history of conflict and turmoil has still been found dotted across the island, relics from long since past. I'm going to comment on one of the pics with this in a second. Nowadays, Tanoa thrives off rich deposits of rare earth metals exported from the world over. But controversy and civil unrest have long surrounded these efforts due to the perceived social, economic and environmental impacts of their exploration. Mining. It's as simple as that. Now I'll bring you back to that later when we look at one of the possible aspects of the island in real life. Tanoa is also believed to be the hub of illicit trafficking in the Pacific, but no formal charges have ever been raised. In 2035, Tanoa continues to enjoy a prolonged period of apparent peace and prosperity, but the volatile geopolitical situation on the world stage threatens to destabilize the region and plunge it into darkness once more. Tanoa will be the first South Pacific destination featured in the ArmA series. Previously, ArmA Islands located in the Mediterranean islands of Altus and Stratus, ArmA 3, the Eastern European country of Chernobyl, ArmA 2, and the Middle Eastern nation of Takistan from ArmA 2 Operation Arrowhead and later Take on Helicopters, and the various other terrains in the fictional ArmAverse. These are things such as Sarani and other earlier terrains. Alright, so let's take a better look at these pictures. I'm just going to quickly zip through them before getting up some full HD photos released by ArmA 3 themselves. This is one that I'd like to reference as due to this. Alrighty, moving along to this, we've got some jungle, and we got a plane flying over some mines, and a port and another island. I'd quickly like to focus on these later on. Now, going into this, we've got this picture here, which we'll look at in a moment. But firstly, I'd like to bring you to this. Back into this, it will bring these up next to each other. I'd like you to focus over in this left-hand side here, where we can see the terrain dropping into it. Ideally, this looks pretty similar to that, and we've got some lighting over there from what looks like some cranes from the port. Along here further, we've got more and more dots of buildings that would produce light. This is mirrored again here. All along the side of the island here, we've got more and more of it, including small little coastal-like buildings here, including office blocks, more cranes, and a bit more like terrace. We've also got different types of rocks forming here and here, and various types of seemingly new buildings. Now, this is why I believe that this, I'll also point out one more thing in a minute, is the real thing, and that this is a legitimate leak, and that is actually what we are going to be playing on shortly. Now, the second reason, apart from the fact that these two images are very similar, especially with that rise there, like just look at it, everything, it literally seems like a black and white version of this image, without the clouds at night, is that this is who uploaded it. BizStudio.com. Now, if I bring you to there, you know exactly why I believe that this is not a leak. Here we go. Bohemia Interactive. BizStudio. Games. We know they make ArmA 3 without waiting it load. They're gearing up for ArmA 3. Look at this. This is ArmA 3 right here. It's the people that made ArmA 3 that are hosting this image right now. Which means it's remarkably similar. It hasn't been taken down, considering it's been out for like, let's look, June 13. It's now June 14 from my time. So clearly something, they want us to see this and get hyped for E3. And I believe me, I really am. Now we can see here we've got some dense forest and some light undergrowth leading up into this volcano type area. This is quite exciting to me really, because it means we're going to have some forest and we're going to have something that's, it's not just constantly going to be forest, we've got some open area. Alright, leading into this second screenshot here. This is one that's really got me going. Now, earlier on in this article they highlighted about World War II and the history of the island. Now, I'm just going to quickly do this one to get it over with. Pretty sure they just stole the most beautiful tree award from Crisis 3 by Super Nightmare X91. Very true. It does look bloody mint. So let's close that out now. So, history. Any of you that know your aviation will probably be able to pick out this quite quickly. It's the wreck of a plane crashed into the canopy, likely stuck in a tree. Now, to me this looks quite a lot like a Zero, a Japanese fighter, which we'll look up in a minute. Now, it shows that the island has some history from World War II, as this plane was extensively used by the Japanese Army, Air Force and Navy in World War II. Here we can see a tree, and another one seemingly over here, that's fallen across. This will give us extra cover in firefights. And it makes me excited. We can even see the God Ray, something that's new to ArmA 3. It really just does feel like ArmA 3. If you don't believe me, launch up Lingor, mess with the fog and lighting a bit, and see if you can recreate something like this with ArmA 2's map. Alright, so if we go to the Zero, I'll show you why I believe that this is it. Right, if we go back down to images now, we can see the shape of it here. We've got that clear engine cone and the wing. Bring it back to this photo, which I've accidentally just exited, we'll go back to. We can clearly see that engine intake there and the shape of the wing, clearly. This is quite good to see, because it means the island will be quite, interesting to explore. We'll be finding new things. Almost like the caves and the skulls from ArmA 3. Secondly, I'd like to bring you into this picture here. It shows a port, an industrialized port. This is something we haven't quite seen in the modern era from ArmA yet. I mean, we saw some quays like this area here in ArmA 3's like Kavala and Pyrgos and even the military harbour, but it didn't have things like cranes and that. Like, this is really showing us what we want to see. Something that's more modern and up to date, like modernized cities, something that everyone's been screaming for. Over here we can see some kind of other loading devices and also more, and seemingly some kind of pile of rocks. The trawler has been added again here, something from ArmA 3, but does not seem to be moving, which is almost sad. Now we've got the jet ski. That's going to be awesome fun, we can already tell, and there's also new civilian clothes. That's something that's going to be great. There's more civilian stuff. Here we can see more of the crane loading devices. However, there's one thing in this photo that caught my attention quite quickly. It's something we've seen in other games, but never from ArmA directly. Hell, it's even been modded into Minecraft. It's water reflection. We can see the reflection of this crane in the water. Does that not get anyone's blood pumping? Because that is bloody awesome. We can also see some water effects here, however that was in ArmA 2 and 3. Over here we can see clearings in the forested terrain. This will make for good LZs, hopefully to assault here. It also means we can put bases of fire on to suppress here. Things like this are going to make the terrain a lot more exciting. I'm just going to leave this image up momentarily because I believe it ties into the next one quite well. Here's the next thing that I'd like to bring your attention to, is the mine and the plane. In this screenshot here we can see a port in the background. Now it looks very familiar. Hell, we can even seemingly see that trawler just sitting off the edge there. Right here. Alright, I'd like you to look at this little lie in the land here, particularly this spec here. It's a bit sus, but I honestly believe that this spec is that terrain and that dip right there, because that port has every sign to be exactly like the one in this port here. For example, we can see that that is clearly a lot closer than that. However, I do not believe we can see it on the other side except the edge here, which we can see quite well. I believe the crates here, and we can see this gap in here where we've got that space. So, leading to that, I believe these, like this here, this like large area of mine here, is hidden up in behind this ridge. Now, moving on to this picture here. There's three key things I really want to focus on. This area down here, the mine and some of the things in it, and the clearing here. The plane, which highlights even more civilian vehicles that I am so excited to see. And just as importantly, this island over here, which ties it into where I believe this is set. Firstly, let's concentrate on the plane to get it over with. We haven't really seen many civilian vehicles, particularly in the air. In fact, we've only got one that's purely civilian. The MD-500 helicopter. But this plane here really shows us that we've got something that's civilian airplane-wise. It looks just like most general aviation ones, but a bit of a modern touch. It's got that modern look to it, that modern feel. Alright, getting that over with, I'd like to look down here. Down here, while the pixel density doesn't seem to be too nice, that's something that we found in ArmA 3 as well. We can see some open area here. This will lead to some nice open terrain, where we've still got that hidden jungle. We had this in most ArmA maps, sure, but it's still exciting. Down here we can see more of those clearings. Now, the mine is really something that's quite impressive. Like, it's something we haven't seen on such a scale. However, we can clearly see ArmA 3's rock styles here. Again, the not the bobcats and trucks, these mining trucks and this huge degrader here. While I believe this huge degrader here might be a static object, I do not believe these mining trucks will be, as this is on a road which ArmA 3 will really want to make its full potential, because $20 that someone's going to make some kind of a race, or Bohemia will make some kind of a race with off-roads through this mine. Now, drivable bobcats is a pretty fun concept. Let's think about it for a minute. But anyway, enough of that. Finally, I'd like to look at this island. We can clearly see a beach just along the edge here, along with some trees poking at the top of this top bit here on the same island. Along here we can see some settlements moving along. Now, looking at where that island is in location to this port and this mine, I'd like to introduce you to where I believe that ArmA 3's new terrain, Tanoa, is set. I believe it is set in the Lihir Islands in Papua New Guinea. Now, the reason I believe this is because I believe that a port might have been put in somewhere along here with a mine up in here where there could be some developments. It's hard to tell so far. However, we see Mali Island over here. Now we can clearly see it's got some kind of a beach along it. Bringing us back to here, that positions us proportionately into here. I might not be right, and I could well be wrong, but I do not believe that there are any other islands that would well suit this particular area. Finally, I'd like to bring you to this. The fact that we've got so much ocean around here makes us want ships. I mean, we've got the jet ski, I mean that's kinda cool, but this mod here, made by OzSnipe73, was amazing. It was a fully working battleship for ArmA 2 and 3. You could fire shells onto the terrain, and it was amazing fun. You could drive the thing, it wasn't just a static object, and that made something that was really good, and it's something that, after reading through a lot of the forum posts, the community seems to really want. Now, the reason I believe it is also this is because of the fact that there's this little island archipelago that would fit in quite well to the concept, but also due to the fact that over here, in the Altian region of Altus and Stratus here, or Limnos in the other island, along with Kanakkale and all that over here from Turkey, and Imbros here, I believe that after hinting the fact that tensions had been cooling down in the Mediterranean, but rising in the Pacific, see my trailer earlier, this kind of makes a lot of sense, because Papua New Guinea and Indonesia are both, Papua New Guinea, while likely NATO, Indonesia is most likely CSAT, joined in with China. This means Papua New Guinea would be quite a likely place to invade before staging something on Australia if they ever wanted to do something. Now, going back into this terrain, that means if you've got such a huge area of water, aircraft and that aren't quite going to be enough to spread your stuff around. You really are going to need some ships. So that's why I believe that that's going to happen. Now, taking a look at this mine, we can see two pits here. Whether we are right or not, it's hard to tell, and it doesn't quite look right. We just simply don't know. Looking at Google Earth, however, there isn't any hint of a volcano, but I wouldn't exactly rule it out just yet. Lastly, I'd like to do one more thing. If we Google Lihir Island Gold Mine, we'll see that Lihir PNG Newcrest Mining Limited. It is a thing, Lihir Gold. It's clearly been a thing there from the past. Bringing us back to here, Tanoa thrives off rich deposits of rare earth metals. Gold. So, if we then go here, we'll also see that it's exported the world over. I'd like you to bring back here, the port. This is why I believe that this really does sit in with Lihir itself. So, on this note, I'd like to thank you very much for watching this video and enjoying it as much as I did looking into it. I hope you enjoyed watching the video as much as I did making it. I'd love to hear some of your thoughts and opinions on this new terrain and the video that I made myself. Thank you very much for watching.